It is afternoon. I'm sorry we're running a few minutes late. You know, technical difficulties. I'm Tony Estep, and I'm CEO here at Open Door Health Services, and I want to thank all of you for coming. This is our, Andrew, fifth in the Walker Lecture Series. We started this in 2012. The Walker Lecture Series was started to honor Terry Walker, who is a longtime philanthropist here in Muncie, and also was with Muncie Power Products, who has been a big supporter of Open Door Health Services. And it is a brainchild, I have to say, of Andrew Dale, who thought about this, and we collaborated and thought that this is a wonderful idea to share not only some of the great things that are going on here at Open Door, but also to look at some topics that are very important in this community. Today we're looking at diversity, and I am so excited to hear about what the panel has to say today, because this is something that I think we all embrace, and I think looking at diversity in so many different ways, which I think the palettes actually did. And so at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Ann McGuire. I might also say thank you to our sponsors, which was Muncie Power Products and IU Health Fall Memorial Hospital. So thank you, Ann.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for coming out on such a cold afternoon. First of all, I'd like to thank Tony Estep and Open Door for sponsoring and inviting us today to have a discussion with you about a project that is very near and dear to all of us, and many of you in the audience, I see, participated as well. So I'd like to introduce myself. I am Ann McGuire, and I am the Vice President of Human Resources for the East Central Indiana region that makes up Ball Hospital and Blackbird Hospitals for IU Health. Our project actually got off the ground and was funded by our foundation, so I want to give credit there. They were very generous in sponsoring an idea that came to us, and we're going to talk to you today in just an open discussion. We're going to use a panel. We're going to ask you to participate and talk to you about our story, because we're thrilled with what happened. This story started with one idea and became the palette of diversity, something that we're very excited about for our community, for our organization, for ourselves individually. It started with a small group of people that had some ideas about what they wanted to do, and the story's going to unfold for you today. And you're going to hear a lot about these palettes. So what we thought we would do is start a short video to give you a visual representation of what those palettes are, and then kind of take that story from there. you think? That give you a good sense of what we're talking about and a visual? It translates, I think. You're the first group to see this video, so we'd love to hear your feedback today. We thought it translated so much more powerfully than just the picture image and some of the materials that we produced. And the companion pieces to the art really tell the story in depth about what each of these artifacts represent to each of those groups. The thing I want to start off with is to say diversity is just that. It's very diverse. As you can see, not only nationality, but we talk about the cultural differences, the diseases, the mental capacities. So this group was founded in, we'll give some representation to who we are, perhaps nationality, and then it grew into this huge project that we're going to share with you now. So what I'd like to do is first introduce our panel for you today, and then kind of let us unfold that story for each of you.
Bryn Marlowe.
Pam Nicholas.
Rosemary Rugsaka.
Maud Jennings.
Donna Book Out.
I'm Andrew Dale.
Okay, and what I'd like to do is I'm just going to be your facilitator today, and I would ask that we start off maybe with Pam, and we'll kind of go through the group. If you feel like you have questions or you want to interject, this is truly an open forum, not a highly structured one. It's meant to give you as much enjoyment and information as possible, so sit back and enjoy.
Well, I want to start from the beginning and tell you the story of the Palette of Diversity and how it came about. Ajanta Goswami, who is a child psychiatrist and a physician at IU Health Ball Memorial, was the person that planted the seed. She had the spark and the idea. She approached Tricia Stanley from IU Health Ball Memorial Foundation and suggested that they do a diversity project. She wanted to represent the physicians and employees and staff at IU Health Ball Memorial and show the diversity that we had in this community, and also wanted to represent the community and let people know that the hospital was a place for all persons. It was accessible for all people in our community and really wanted to embrace people. So she came to me then in May of 2011 and asked me if I would serve as the lead artist, and initially had the idea of doing knitted flags from each of the countries. And I said, I would love to participate, but not so much knitted flags. Would you entertain the idea of doing something else? And of course she did. We had worked on projects in the past, and she was very open to hearing other people's ideas. So we started meeting together in June of 2011 with a small group of committee members and discussing what we could do. So it went from knitted flags to doing one large project, and they thought about doing a tree with leaves and branches, and then we thought, well, that will be really difficult and would stifle creativity, and we certainly didn't want to do that for the artist. And so then we came up with the palette idea of doing individual palettes that would serve as a group installation. And that's what we went with. And then we sent a letter out to the artist, an invitation that was written, and invited artists to participate. And from the beginning, we knew that we wanted to use the fiber arts, textiles, because I think symbolically they're so rich in their textures that they duplicate the richness and the textures of our community. And we wanted to showcase that. And we provided a foundation. We gave each of the artists a palette of canvas wooden stretcher frames that were 20 inches by 24 inches and that were stretched with a canvas needlepoint fabric that then they could place their fiber arts to and attach those. And we gave them permission to extend off of this 20 by 24 inch. palette. And when we sent out the letter, the invitation to the artists, people responded with enthusiasm. They were so ready to contribute to their community. But the major question was, well, how are we going to decide which country, which culture, which social group we represent? And so that was the discussion. And many of the artists were already connected with a group. And those groups came to us. We did not pick the groups that were going to be represented. We turned no one away. And we started out with 20 palettes. We ended with 16 palettes. There were a few that we lost because of family emergencies or moving to California, moving to Bloomington. So we lost a few artists and a few of our cultural and social groups because of those life things that happened to all of us. But then when we invited the community to participate, we were thrilled with the response that we got. And Ajanta Goswami hosted an event at her house, and there was a great representation there and wonderful conversations that took place in kind of pinning down what the palettes might be. And then artists were getting to know some of the community members that represented their different committees, and things began to gel. And then we had our first meeting, educational program at the hospital, and that was another opportunity for artists to meet with the committees. Once that was done, we asked the committees to provide an inspiration kit that was made up of textiles and icons and symbolic items that they could use in their actual palette, that they were willing to give the artist to be included. And that was really helpful because we wanted this to be a relationship. We didn't want the artists just to go off on their own and try to tell the story. And we wanted there to be a soulfulness and a personality to each of the palettes, and a true representation. And so by getting this inspiration kit, it allowed the artists to have some items to put their hands on that they could include in each of their palettes. And the most important thing, I think, was the building of relationships, people getting to know each other. And this started from the very beginning. It was important to be available to the artist and not do everything electronically. We felt that it was important to meet with the artist, to welcome them into my home, to go to their studios, to talk on the telephone, to talk face-to-face, to have lunch together. And we really developed wonderful relationships between the artist and with the committee members. And I'm so pleased to call the group of artists friends now, because really felt like we got to know each other very intimately through the entire project. So it was delightful, very delightful. There were some artists that worked very independently that I didn't see or hear from, and then there were other artists who I probably went to their homes 8-10 times. There was one artist that I talked to. I logged, my telephone calls and conversations to make notes to myself. There was one artist that I talked to 47 times on the telephone and met with numerous times. And a lot of it is just confidence building. And sometimes you just need people to brainstorm with and to mull and brew over ideas. And that was very helpful. It was also my responsibility to ensure quality control, which is a little difficult when you're working with friends and fellow artists that you have exhibited with. But They understood that, and again, it was a mutual respect and a trust, so that it was not critiquing their work. It was just offering suggestions and a different viewpoint on how to look at that, and making sure that the committee had seen the palette before it was exhibited and had approved of it, and they were on board with it, because we certainly wanted to be respectful of our committee groups and represent them in a way that again told their story and represented visually what their culture and social group was all about in our community.
And what we could do from here is I'd like each maybe of the panelists to talk about what the project meant to them, what the role was, to give you an idea so that you have different perspectives. Pam was our lead artist, and I would never recommend a project of this size and this magnitude without a lead artist who has that personality and respect of their fellow artisans, so that project can come to a success. Because like she said, that can be very difficult. It's very individualized. So if we could, I'd just like to, at random, whoever would like to talk next, to kind of share what your role was, or Rosemary, do you want to, or Donna?
Well, I wondered, why am I on this committee? Because I'm not an artist, but I had traveled to Africa and things. But at our church, I guess I'm a United Methodist, we had an international friends group, and Rosemary was part of that group, and Ajanta Goswami moved here. She's from India, and she moved across the street from us. And so we became friends, and I got her involved in lots of community things. and we used to have a Thanksgiving dinner at our house with people from all different countries for the international friends, so that they would understand what Thanksgiving was. You know, all the stuff we have, they don't always appreciate, but they don't understand it. So we helped them understand Thanksgiving a little bit. Then there were study circles, and during the study circles, that I think Christian Ministry started that, and all over the city, groups met to study diversity. And in our group at Gethsemane, we had people from Thailand. Rosemary was on that. We had people from Benin, West Africa. We had disabled people. We had people that had lived in Delaware County all of their lives. And then we had, Allison Quirk was on that committee, and that's before she was a politician. She was pregnant for her first child. And so each group was to decide what they could do to help with diversity. So our group, and then we went to the Unitarian Church, and everybody told what their idea was. Well, Allison and Pierre Ashadi had this idea of having an international festival downtown in Muncie. So Diversity was born. And we had that first Diversity, and it was in April, and it was raining so hard you could not see anything. And so our backup place was the YWCA, and we went to the YWCA not knowing. We had a logistics person. We didn't know where anything was going to be. And fortunately, it was the same day as the Children's Festival at the Children's Museum. So we had a lot of advertisements on the radio telling people it was canceled and it was going to be at the YWCA. And they ran announcements at the Children's Museum that we were having a festival, and ours was from 2 to 5 right after the Children's Museum. So we had a big group, and we had a big list of people that were interested in diversity from the Unitarian Church. So I gave my list to those people, and they had emails for everybody, and they sent them out to all the people that were on that diversity list. And some people responded, and some people didn't. But if they were interested, they responded. My role, I knew several people from Africa. So I said, well, I'll call my African friends and see about an African palette. Well, you know, Africa is like South America. There are lots and lots of countries in South America, and there are in Africa too as well. So the palette, we all brought things and put it together, and it was a joy to work with that. And then I've also worked with teamwork a little, and so I called Molly Flotter and I said, I think poverty would be good to have represented. And they were in the middle of a big campaign, and I think they were the last to get there.
They were.
That was my contribution, and it just has been a joy to work with diversity. It keeps me going, I guess. And over there it says, Liz, live as if you were to die tomorrow. Learn as if you were to live forever. Mahatma Gandhi. And I think that's a really good quote to say the advantages that you can get through diversity. And by learning other people, you learn that you have more in common than you have difference.
Yeah, great job. And Donna brings up the perfect example of what this project was about, which was networking, reaching out to everyone you know to ask them to encourage them through her experiences, and how she was a big part of bringing the larger community together, and every person had roles in that. So that was a great example. Thanks, Donna. Anyone else next? Bryn or Rosemary? What would you like to share? Go ahead.
Well, my roots of diversity go way back to probably starting with the fact that I married someone from a country halfway across the world in Thailand. And so when you do that, that opens your world to a whole new global community. And so that's where it started. But it's been a wonderful journey and has allowed me to just open my mind to so many other things and meet so many great people, including all of these wonderful people, and Ajanta, who had a lunch with Donna and I near the very beginning, and I remember talk about doing a quilt, a huge quilt for the hospital to be displayed. The different areas of it would have knitting work or something from a different country. It just changed so many times until, and I have to say, she didn't give herself credit, but Pam was the one who brought up the palette idea, and then we all jumped on board, and it just was the best idea ever. But then, you know, as she said, so many great relationships were formed, and personally, in our case, I already knew Beth Wolf here, who did the Thailand palette for us. I already knew her a little bit, but our relationship has become so much closer through this project. And
I didn't even know where Thailand was.
She didn't even know.
Truly, you had to show me where it was.
It really opened up her world too. And
absolutely. So we learned a lot, didn't we?
Boy, we would love to take her there someday. But
I'd love to.
I also want to mention that I have been a nurse at Ball Hospital for nearly 30 years. And, excuse me, IU Health Ball Hospital now. And I have to say that I am extremely proud of Ball Hospital and its administration for taking on this project, because it just means a lot, and it's just a huge thing for Ball Hospital to do. And it's just, you know, for the community, for everyone involved, it's just amazing. And it just makes me even more proud to work there. So I'm nearing I'm getting toward my retirement, but it's just a great thing to have happen toward the end for me. And so the whole project has just been amazing.
Thanks, Rosemary. Appreciate that. Brent, do you want to share your perspective?
I'm going to stand up. Alone. I was so alone. I was 35 years old in 1995 and younger. We were all younger back then. When I came out to myself and others as a gay man. And I was all alone. and naive, I thought I was the only gay man in Indiana. When I told my wife what I had finally pieced together about myself, I thought we were the only couple in the Midwest to face such a crisis of faith, of relationship, of love. When our marriage fell apart, I moved out of the house. I left behind a wife, 3 young sons, a church family. I left behind accustomed ways of being in the world. I left behind dreams of happiness, society's easy acceptance, the embrace of my growing up family. Alone, I stepped into the unknown. My employer turned me out the door. They had no place for a gay man at a Christian university. My United Methodist Church turned me over to Satan. They had reserved a seat for me in hell. From the bench, the court commissioner announced that homosexuality turns her stomach, and she never wants to see that happen to my kids. The court told me what I could say, where I could go, and eventually barred me from seeing my children altogether. I felt very much alone. I felt like a criminal, deeply flawed, a sinner. There were plenty of my voices in my world telling me this was so. Thank heavens I eventually met the man who is now my husband, with whom I have shared 17 years of my life. I cannot imagine a human being on the planet better suited to my temperament, my values, and sense of humor. Dave and I were wed in Canada shortly after Ontario legalized same-sex marriage. A couple years back, he retired after 25 years as chaplain with hospice at Ball Memorial. At his retirement party, he filled several tables with examples of the fabric art that he's created. His talent did not go unnoticed. When the call went out for artists to join the Palettes of Diversity Project, his name was on the list. Each artist will work with a committee to gather ideas and express a shared vision of the piece, he was told. Okay, artists, now go home and find people to sit on your committees. So Dave returned home to find me. Next, he contacted a variety of people, asked them to join in the venture and to suggest others who might be interested. One gay couple offered to host the first meeting in their downtown Muncie home. We set a time. Actually, some of us gay guys just pulled a date out of thin air. Sounded good to us. And it wasn't until our lesbian friends pointed it out did we realize we had chosen Super Bowl Sunday, Super Bowl in Indianapolis Sunday for our first committee meeting. The day arrived. I was nervous, probably not as nervous as the Giants and Patriots, and I had to look them up this morning to see who played. Our host greeted us at the door. As soon as I walked in, I knew I was not alone. We were a small group and very diverse. Women, men, African American, white, old, young, abled, differently abled, employed, unemployed, retired, blue collar, white collar, even one CEO, gay, straight, lesbian, activists, allies, and advocates, as well as shy, quiet types. There were even people there who were not there. Some had told Dave that they were willing to offer input by phone or email, but were very private people, read highly closeted, and preferred not to appear in public. Not to worry. We had welcomed participation at any level. We explained the purpose of the meeting. Dave was going to create a piece of art to represent the LGBTIQ community, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex, queer, and questioning. The finished piece would be displayed in the hospital lobby. We wanted to create an image that would represent our community to others, but most of all to ourselves. Something so that when LGBTIQ people caught sight of it, they would say, I am not alone. They know about me here. Somebody has paved the way. We brainstormed ideas. Using the rainbow flag was almost a given. How cool is it that out of all the flags in the world, we get the one that has the bright rainbow colors? It's a symbol most all of us recognize. We wave when a car passes us, has a rainbow sticker on it. We breathe easier when we see it on the door of a counseling center. We beam when we see it flying from a house in small-town rural Indiana. Rainbow flag, gotcha. How to reference the closet that's such a defining factor in so many of our lives, and the coming out process. Well, we could have the art piece break out of its square frame, seem to be lifting up and off. We could incorporate the symbol of the circle, wholeness and healing. What else did we want to include? Family. Well, there's a thought. There were several parents and grandparents among our group. Many of us become family one to another, we who have been rejected by our own families of origin. In the end, Dave used Mardi Gras beads to outline 2 adults and a child, a celebration of family. How to acknowledge the hard times, the wounds we carry, we who grew up in a homophobic society, who heard the taunts and jeers, experienced physical, emotional, and spiritual abuse. As LGBTIQ persons, we know what self-loathing is. We see, feel, and recognize its effect in ourselves and our community. Our artists came to the rescue here, pieced together sharp, jagged bits of fabric in rainbow hues to create the quilt blocks that make up the artwork. As we put the pieces of our lives together, out of our very brokenness comes strength and beauty, color and vibrancy. As husband of the artist, I got a firsthand look at the hours and hours that went into creating this piece. The number of stitches that were put in, then pulled out, the angles that had to be adjusted and readjusted, the number of concepts that were explored, set aside, new approaches taken. Dave kept our committee up to date at each of the monthly diversity discussions. He met with committee members to review the work in progress. Many of them joined us for the official unveiling this past fall. Since then, I've been pleased as punch each time I walk into the hospital to see that bright rainbow circle of life lifting out of a dark background. Life will out. Life will up. We are not alone even in the darkest times of our lives. In illness and vulnerability, amongst all the unknowns, there is a supportive community bearing witness, whispering, "You are not alone." Look, here's the work of a dedicated artist, gay man, retired hospice chaplain, compassionate midwife to the dying, deep listener, loving heart, speaking through his craft a truth that echoes in the deep parts of the soul. You are known. You matter. You are not alone. You are recognized. You are worthy of dignity and respect. We are here for you. We honor you. We, all of us, are in this together. You are not alone.
Yay!
And as you can tell, Bryn represents not just one, but many. Every one of these palettes talk and emphasize their struggle. But you know what we found most fascinating is the fact that no one stayed in the struggle. What they celebrated was their coming out of the struggle, the hope. Everyone, what from the poverty palette with the green thread that resembles hope. Every palette talked about the hope and the richness. And that's what we found most fundamentally prevalent in every piece of work and throughout the entire process.
You know, one of the great things about this process, for me, was very educational, because you had each diversity group come up to the front of
the programs, the monthly programs.
Right, and presented. And I was there.
And did one, that was great.
Right, in Japan, and then, him, and I really did not understand the struggles of the group. I mean, each, poverty has its own struggles, but it really made me understand what kind of struggle you go through, not of your own fault. I really feel that, and it just touched me so deeply, and I think I can carry into till I die, and with deep understanding of probably each group, so anyway, I just felt really appreciative of what you presented. Just wanted to say that.
Thank you, that's beautiful.
And that was the hope.
Yeah.
That's what we wanted to happen, is that we would give voice to people, and there would be a better understanding through the palettes, that visually we would be able to do that, through the narratives, which was Andrew Dale's idea, to exhibit those with the palettes, and then through the educational programs that we had. And I think we had 6?
Well, 6 each month, but we had a total of 9 different groups present, as you said, to educate each other. And every one of us were stunned and amazed and learned so much that we just did not know.
Very profound.
And I like that you said that you can carry that in your heart and share that wherever you go. And Andrew joined us a little later, but I'd love to hear your perspective before we moved him on.
I grew up in Muncie. I moved away and I came back, and I've always thought of Muncie as a highly creative community. Muncie, East Central Indiana, but it's a highly intellectual place. It's a place where ideas can truly be shared. And I guess my feeling, my reflections is that this was an incredible response to those two attributes to our community in sharing. I was simply an obedient servant to the project. I was brought on very late.
Not true.
No. I hung these pieces, and you could arrange these in any which way, and you really couldn't screw it up. I mean, these are beautiful pieces that have their own rhythm. They provide a collective song that's pretty remarkable when you look at each note together. But individually, you pluck a chord and they're all just there. And I have to agree, your whole statement reflects every single individual piece. You can take everything you said and it gathers up the thoughts and the feelings and those things that we cannot express through words oftentimes about something that people share. And so I was able to hang these, and it was fun. And Pam helped me that evening, and we had no issues getting it up. We had to think a little bit about color, and we had to think about, when some things are almost all the same size, you have to really think about how you lay them out, because there was no way it was going to be mundane or boring. No. They're just too beautiful. And lastly, I guess I've always appreciated being part of a project that has a number of people together, and artists can create their own individual works, but there is nothing more fulfilling to me, and I know we all share this, than to collectively create an idea, an ideal, something tangible, something intangible. To me, there's no greater purpose in life than that, and so I just applaud everybody here for what they've done. And your leadership, Anne, has been absolutely. We haven't talked about that so much, but you made this happen.
Yes, you did.
You very much were. Well, it's everybody. It's everybody, but the foundation, and Tricia's here today, and I think about the work that Neil Gifford has done, and that Matt Cox did to chronicle these pieces, and then Prism Video. Which, have you ever seen someone take an object and make it come to life like this? It's pretty incredible. It's a wonderful project. So, with that, I just thank you.
I would thank you all. Amon's going to close for us, but what I wanted to just kind of make a couple of points here. One, not so much leadership, but a vehicle. Sometimes you find yourself in an opportunity to be a vehicle. Tricia Stanley is a quiet partner, but that woman is fantastic on support and project management, so we need to give her a lot of credit. She made that all the artists, some of you, Kat Garofalo in the audience, the two up front, we've had great participation with our community. The thing that, for me, in joining this, I have worked at fighting discrimination all my life, all my career. And I have to say, at Ball Hospital, I love our CEO. He will tell you simply, and will give you the HR legalese, but Mike Haley will say, here it is, as simple as I can make it. I don't care, who you are and what you present. Not that he doesn't care, but he cares. What he's saying is, when you come to our hospital, you will get the dignity and the respect and the quality of care that you deserve and that we know we can provide. And that's enough said. There is no discrimination on the act of that patient-centered care. And when we look at our projects, we can't just say that and know that we deliver it. We need our community to know that. And this was a great vehicle from the early onset of the idea. And that's what I mean about being a vehicle. We need to show evidence that we are just that organization, that we are just that community. And to do that, it doesn't just happen. We need to educate ourselves. We need to extend beyond what we know about just our own vision, our own life, our own culture. And this project gave birth to that. And this committee, as you heard the story, we started with one idea, and you see the evidence of what we ended up with. And that was evidence in itself that when you open up the conversation, when you are willing to listen and allow that diverse array of personalities, cultures, whatever's going on in your life and whatever brings you to the table as the person you are today, if you open up to that, look what happens. This is the evidence of a project that started with a small idea and became, I think, the most unique thing I've ever been a part of in all my career, in all my life. And I think our community is about ready to start a new wave, a new opportunity for other communities to share and do like projects. And I would like to see us, as Tony said, I love her idea of how do we continue this? How do we continue to match art that is so, I think, a universal language to transcend so many things, to represent the evidence of what we're capable of? And so I would like to then turn this last piece over to Maude and allow her to share her experience and her thoughts and kind of bring us to some closure today.
I can't thank you all enough for coming today and for being part of our celebration. So much of what has been said already has application to my own life, and I will ask you to indulge me for just a moment while I tell you about where I come from. As you can tell from my accent, I am not an Indiana person. I have lived all my life on the East Coast, and so when I came to Muncie, I came as a graduate student. The first Sunday I was here, I thought I'd go to a movie, except that the Ku Klux Klan was marching. And so I thought, well, maybe that's not the best thing to do with your Sunday afternoon. So I lived being the one I'm still the one in so many instances. Being alone and yet being a part of something is absolutely the way I can come to deal with it. I put down a few things that I wanted to tell you all this today, and I thought I'd do it as I used to do at school. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here together in the presence of God in this company to talk about how art has affected us intellectually, physically, and spiritually. You will note the order in which these three things have been mentioned. Because we are affected intellectually, we seek connection to our lives in what we have viewed. Most times we can relate, but often there is difficulty. I find William de Kooning specifically unable to relate, but Michelangelo's David is something else. Because we are affected physically, we contemplate the effect of the relationship to the subject, their surroundings, their actions. You see the horror of war in Picasso's Guernica, and may joining me in wondering, why does this sort of conflict persist? And because we are affected spiritually, we consider the content of what we see and perhaps respond to the emotion aroused in the work before us. Our moral sense is aroused. I personally respond to the growth I find in Van Gogh as he made his way from the darkness of the Dutch farms to the light of Arles. I have not the best words to use. Let me quote better wordsmith than I, Marcel Proust, who says that only through art can we get outside ourselves and know another's view of the universe, which is not the same as ours, and see landscapes which would otherwise have remained unknown to us. Thanks to art, instead of seeing a single world, our own, we see it multiply until we have before us as many worlds as there are original artists, and continues after their care. May they continue to send us their special rays. Thank you.
Thank you, Maude. I appreciate that. Thank you. Maude was also not only part of our committee, but she was also one of the artists in the African American Palace and narrator as well. So she wrote the narrative as well. So thank you, Maude.
My pleasure.
At this time, does anyone have any thoughts, comments, questions? Please, Pat.
I think your final comment that you were quoting about being able to explore came very well for me with the religious palette as we all sat. One of the things I think that when we talk about how we see the world in comfortable snippets that only affect us personally, and oftentimes reaching out is somewhat risk-taking. People don't know what to expect, and I think that what I found that came from our educational component when we did our presentations was the comments that would come back to me when we had several religions represented that evening to talk about their belief systems and how they affected themselves personally. And people shared that they never knew about somebody else. We only know what we know. And by expanding that worldview, however small, doesn't mean that it's like going to a doorway. You open the door just a crack. We're not necessarily asking people to rush out and drop off the cliff, but we're just asking somebody to take a peek, because I think that opens up our own personal processes of knowing and learning more. And I think that that's what I got from it, from the people that I worked with on my committee for the religious palette. And I found it very enriching. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thoughts? Yes, sir.
I think as an artist, I think of the act of doing as being as significant as the work. And I think what I see among you folks is that your act of coming together and doing is as significant as the work itself.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder, is this on permanent display in the hospital, or is it something that you travel?
Well, we talked about that and had several requests for that. We found that they're very fragile pieces, so they're on permanent display in the hospital lobby, which we would love and invite you to come and read the narratives and take the time, because that really tells the story. But our struggle is if we try to put them and move them, we've had some difficulty. We've had to do some repairs. So right now, we're not considering traveling with them. So we're trying to create video and information that way to where we can put that out on websites and allow people to then share more of that visually if they can't get to the hospital to see them. So we're still basically evaluating that possibility.
Well, maybe the incentive would be to encourage other communities to do the same thing.
I think that it could be replicated.
That is our goal.
Yeah, we do hope that will happen.
You'll find creative people, and there's not every community that could bring it off. It would be different.
Yeah, that's what I would love to see.
Be as diverse as the number of people involved.
And as artists, we do have, what's next going on, like phase 2, phase 3, and lots of ideas that we've been thinking about. So.
Well, you've got lots of walls over there.
Another question?
I wasn't involved with this in the beginning and just became aware of it towards the end. But something I've become more aware of is art is healing. And as I'm listening to your stories today, I can see the process that you went through. It's healing. Creating it from the artist is a healing. But being on display for just those people visiting our community, visiting the hospital.
Thank you for saying that. You are absolutely right. The healing aspect, when we partnered with each group to share community education over those 6 months, we also partnered with a physician to give medical review and conversation. But the question, the interesting thing you mentioned about being in the lobby on display, our goal was to put that on display so that in the hope that when you come, your families, your loved ones, the people you care for, and come to the hospital, we hope that you see yourselves, some parts of yourselves, or the people that you know reflected in each of these palettes. And if not even that, to be just amazed at the diversity in our community and how diverse we really are when you come to think about it. It's just truly amazing. So
I like the fact that you kept the kid things in there too.
Yeah.
Because even when they're young and can't really understand the big picture, they like the little things that move and glisten. And
Absolutely. We've had a lot of children reactions to the palettes themselves that started conversations with them and their families. We've had many conversations about that. So thank you. Any other thoughts, comments?
Have you considered contacting any schools to have them come visit?
Brim was just talking about that, saying, wouldn't this be an interesting project for a school to engage artists and children to produce their own palettes in the school? So we just talked about that. It was his idea that brought that up when we were preparing for this. So I would love to see more conversation, and any group that you yourselves are affiliated with or have ideas, please let this group know, because we would be more than happy to talk, to advise, to counsel, support that initiative. I'm speaking to my statewide partners. We have over 20 hospitals that I'm presenting to here in February to talk about how do we generate these ideas in each of those communities as well. So the schools, church, it doesn't matter what the venue. this can be translated, as Jenna said, in any venue.
Years ago, Prevent Child Abuse Council of Delaware County worked with Meridian Services. We had a grant and we did a Healing Through Art project that went throughout our county. It was a traveling art piece that this children who were clients of Meridian Services got to have an opportunity to express their experiences, particularly about abuse and neglect. It was probably one of the most powerful things that had ever come about. And it was in the community, and people would stand, and Donna's daughter was at the bank where the exhibit was up, and people would cry. Because, as you say, I never knew.
So powerful.
And those exhibits had been somewhere at one time. I believe it was at the lobby of, at that time it was CMHS. And I said, these stories have to be told. And a lot of people were uncomfortable to see them, which is understandable. But these were children who had no voice anyway. And by putting this in, this was one means of working with these kids. And the day that we were putting it together, their faces just blossomed. No matter how difficult the story was, they were so happy that somebody wanted to hear their story and what they have. And we took that another step and we did tiles. And the kids did a whole bunch of tiles as another meaning of expression. And that's found at Gresham Center now behind, there's a whole wall of them that Mike Ellis put in when he did the design. And so art is healing, and it's a wonderful way to incorporate it anywhere and anytime. And if you need somebody, I'll help you with that.
Thank you, Ken. Yeah, it's the medium by which so many things can be accomplished. It neutralizes, I think, a lot of the animosity, and it really focuses people on an endpoint, which is truly hope, and the hope of change and improvement. So everywhere across our system, we're talking about how do we collaborate with patients and community in art projects that do represent healing. Tony, thank you for being a leader in that area of saying what can we do and how can we use some of this experience to do something else and partner or support. So if there's anything else, we'll just reopen discussion. I don't know if you're on a time crunch. So.
Well, we can talk as long as people go. We always say we try to get you out in that hour's lunchtime because we realize people are busy.
And we also we tried to produce, we've had many requests of reproduction of a book or just so that people have the narrative that matches so we did print these in a low format for like $10 each. We put together a stack of note cards of every one of the palettes. We have a little soft cover book or calendar that goes out 16 months from this month, and they're available in our gift shop. I brought some here. The ones here, including tax, are $10 each, but I don't know if that's something you want. There's no pressure there. I know we've been asked for it, so I tried to remember to bring those today. But they're in our gift shop, and I would ask at the very least you come and experience the palettes for yourself. And the narratives are so powerful. I can't tell you how much I've learned. And I still look at them and I see something new. And pass by them every day. Anyone else?
On the things that you do sell, where do the proceeds go?
They go thank you. The proceeds for all things sold go right to our foundation, and we've actually earmarked every one of those proceeds to go to diversity work in our community, right here in Delaware County and at the hospital. So all of those are actually funded. So thank you for asking.
And I'd like to say the artists donated their time to do these beautiful works. So
and many donated
that was so
and
important. We gave each of the artists a budget of $100 that the foundation was kind enough to reimburse if they so desired. But most of the artists, of course, volunteered all of their time and talents and felt as though they were tithing back to their community. It was their way of doing stewardship in their community, but most did not ask for reimbursement for their supplies. And it's difficult for artists after they produce this piece of artwork, you know, to give that away because you're so attached to it.
However,
and what it
was
represents.
really happy to see it on the dining room table after a whole year.
And ours was for all 16 of those to be in the hospital, not on all of our beds and couches. And
you know, I just wanted to mention, I did the Japanese one, and 4 of us in the committee, and we are still getting together once a week whenever we can. And some people, a person might not be able to come, but that's fine. But we are sort of becoming friends through this activity, and it's still continuing. I thought it was really nice touch. I'm the oldest one in this group, but they can include me. Even an old lady.
I have another question. How long is this going to be on display? Permanent. Okay. Has the Star Press been contacted and written anything about it?
They have. There's been several articles.
I have copies of all the articles.
Fargus, she was actually one of the palette and narrative, and she came out and gave a program. So they've been very engaged, wonderful partners. And now we're just beginning to produce the video so that we had a visual representation that could travel since the pieces could not. And we'll see if we can add to that so it's more informative of the project as a whole rather than just the representation of the art. So yes, it's been written, and we'd like to keep that alive so that we truly do, like the idea of schools, you know, how can we do this more in terms of throughout our community? Is there opportunity for additional projects? I'd like to leave you with this quote. You'll see it in everything we do in terms of our materials, and I take it to heart. It's one of my favorites. We need to give each other the space to grow, to be ourselves, to exercise our diversity. We need to give each other the space so that we may both give and receive such beautiful things as the ideas, openness, dignity, joy, healing, and inclusion. Thank you for today. I appreciate everything you've done for your time, for your participation, for your ideas, for your questions, and I hope we've generated some interest to maybe do more in our community projects just like this. So thank you very much.
From Open Door Health Services, I'd like to thank IU Health Wall Memorial Hospital for this wonderful project. Truthfully, I would love to have Open Door be involved in something. You know, it really hits home because I think about diversity in, so many different ways, and I think this project looked at that. I mean, diversity is what you make of it. And I think about, you know, we talked about the children. I mean, just children's voices. You know, a lot of times children are not heard, whether they've been in an abusive family or living in a wonderful family that's providing. Their voice is not heard often. And, you know, our single moms, I just kept thinking of all these different things that we have diversity here at Open Door. But thank you so much for everything that you've done. And I hope we can continue this, and I hope that Open Door can be a place for it.
We've been talking about kids, and could we do a kids, you know, line of palettes? So that's kind of a great idea.
Well, and this building here really celebrates art.
Oh, it does.
And celebrates, you know, the healing nature of art. And I really do believe that it does exist. And I can say that from the first time we opened this building, and just the comments we received from our clients that were coming in here, and their appreciation for art. And we don't always think that happens. We think that it's the art world, you know, those people with culture. Yeah. And that's that is not it at all. So. Well, thank you so much, and thank you to the hospital and also to Muncie Power Products for sponsoring this. And we hope to have a date in March for our next event, and welcome you to come back at that time. We'll get the date out soon. Thank you very much.
Thanks. That was great.